Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 5 questions in about 10 minutes, and I am very excited to introduce our guest today. This is Earl Foote. He is the founder and CEO of Nexus IT here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Earl, thank you so much for being on the show today. What would you like the people to know about Nexus IT?
John, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. Nexus IT is a 24-year-old outsourced IT and cybersecurity firm based here in northern Utah and servicing a nationwide footprint. We are a firm that kind of concentrates heavily on cybersecurity and compliance in the outsourced IT space. And therefore, the majority of the businesses that we serve are kind of in highly regulated industries that have significant cybersecurity and compliance needs. That's kind of our niche and where we specialize. The sexy version is I say that we run a team of elite ethical hackers that does cyber warfare on behalf of our clients every day against real hackers, and that's not inaccurate in any way whatsoever. But in the end, we take IT and cybersecurity off the plates of business leaders so they can focus on their core business and moving that forward and forget about, the technology behind the scenes.
That is great. And especially in this day and age, I mean, cybersecurity is so critical. It's not even an option anymore. It has to be done, because without it, all sorts of issues start exploding and imploding all at the same time, exploding for the clients, imploding for the company. So
we could do a podcast for like a whole week on that, man.
I'll bet. And I'm sure you've got some stories to tell, but well, I, for one, am glad that you and your team are out there helping to protect folks from the nasties out there trying to do things they shouldn't be doing. So fantastic. All right, well, let's get to our questions. Question number 1. Earl, share a time with the audience when you had a conflict of some kind with a coworker or maybe someone else, and how you resolved it.
Yeah, thank you. So my leadership journey, I'm 24 years into this. It's kind of been a roller coaster, having started this business at 23 years of age. I was probably a little too much the ideal boss. We had a total bro culture around here, and there wasn't a lot of accountability, and we had a lot of fun, which was great, but we weren't always producing the best results. And I kind of probably let my pendulum swing a little too far the other way and kind of became that jerk boss for a while, right? Quickly learned that wasn't the right approach either, and finally settled somewhere in the happy medium there, where we have an amazing culture. We're super productive. We produce the right outcomes. We're accountable. We get the right things done for our clients and our team members. And I know that wasn't really a question, but I just wanted to preface, somewhere in that journey, and it was probably a little more on my jerk side of my journey. We had a team member who that team member is now, one of our top performers. At the time, he'd been with us for a good while. Consistently, we're kind of butting heads on a lot of things. And we're having a hard time getting the right outcomes, from that team member. And it kind of, I think I was maybe in a peer group or, at a leadership seminar or something. And it just kind of came to me that I had probably not really validated this person as a professional, right? Really expressed my appreciation for who they were and what they were bringing to the table. And so we sat down at his yearly check-in, and I just owned up to my side of the equation, which, new leaders out there, I would definitely recommend, checking out the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL. A lot of really great principles in that book. And this was kind of, I think, one of those moments in my leadership journey where that book kind of, came to mind. And I was like, well, wait a second. I need to reflect deeply on what my piece of ownership is and my role in this current situation, and I need to own up to it. And so I did. We sat down in his yearly review, and actually we both of us shed tears. It was kind of an interesting moment. I owned up to not really validating him as a person and a professional. He had started with our organization as a fractional temp employee, and then we had transitioned him, and he didn't go through a normal onboarding process, and I just hadn't really engaged with him on a deep level as a leader. And so sure enough, that was the real crux of the problem, is that he just didn't feel a level of trust with me. And that one little act of me saying, hey, look, I'm sorry. I realize that these are the things that I've done wrong here, and I commit to do better, and I will do better. I can't, promise to be perfect, but I'll promise to do much better in this situation. And that whole situation flipped 180, pretty much on the spot. And he, almost immediately became one of our top producers, and today, still is. And he's been with us now for 8 or 9 years, maybe almost a decade. So, yeah, that's, I think, one of my best, one of the best lessons I've learned in leadership along the way.
That's a great example. And thank you for being willing to share that and be open about your experience and how you handled it. And I love what you said about needing to validate people professionally and helping them to see the value that they bring, and that you do recognize that. And sometimes that gets overlooked. We get caught up, and those things can happen. But I really respect how you handled it, and that you did take that ownership, and that you committed to do better. And that obviously had a great effect. So thank you for sharing that story. That's a great story. Let's go on to the next question. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, Earl, that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. What's something, it's maybe one thing that a leader can do to help retain talent?
Yeah. For me, I think the most pivotal thing I've learned over a 24-year career is that you need to see your team members as equals, and you need to treat them as such, and you need to operationalize that as part of your culture, right? You need to embed trust in those relationships, and in your teams. One of our core values here at Nexus IT is empowered shared leadership, which for us kind of means we don't micromanage. Everybody's entrusted with roles and duties, and they have the authority to act within those, and the authority to produce the right results for the clients and their team members and the organization as a whole, within the purview that has been given to them, or the roles and duties that have been given to them. And so I think trusting, right, but then also so often, and I realize, modern business, we've come a long ways, and, but I've been around this for, 24 years. And so I've seen this evolution of the space we came from, where most people in a leadership position, it kind of goes to their head, and they feel like they're superior, and they talk down to people. They're degrading, they're demeaning, and that just doesn't work in a modern workplace. It does. And besides that, like, you don't want to work for a jerk boss. You don't want to work for, somebody who doesn't respect you and trust you and treat you as a human being, as an equal. So why be that person, right? So yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things that, us making that really an inherent piece of our culture and DNA around here, that I don't call them my employees, they're my team members, and I really view them as that. They are the people that, have my back every day. They have our clients' back. They have each other's back. Really just kind of having that shift of mindset of, these are my team members, and they're my equals, and we're here to support and help each other. And the other piece is, is to coach them. Like, as a leader, particularly as a modern leader, you're there to be a mentor and a coach. You're there to help them identify, where they want to go with their career, where they want to go in life, and to help coach them through that process, right? And help them grow and progress as people, not just professionals, but as people as well, and provide the mechanisms by which they can do that. And so, that's, I guess, part of my philosophy that I think has been very useful for us.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And boy, did you share a lot of really good, short, succinct points on what we can do to help our folks feel more comfortable sticking around longer. And really, obviously, you've done a fantastic job of doing that. And I really appreciated what you said. So great comments. Thank you.
Yeah,
How
thanks.
can leaders, on to our third question here, how can leaders build resilience in a team?
Yeah, I think first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is you definitely need to cross train subject matter expertise across teams. No matter what, you're going to have certain individuals who have more knowledge on specific topics, more experience, more capabilities. And you need those team members to disseminate that across a team, right? So that everybody can help tackle the same sort of problems and issues. And so internally we do monthly lunch and learns. We do an all hands, and then we do different technical and sales team lunch and learns and stuff like that. And it's all about subject matter expertise, sharing subject matter expertise, training the rest of the team on the things that that's been a really important piece to this. But in the end, really, and my good friend Dr. Jeb Hurley, who is he is really one of the world's foremost authorities on the behavioral science behind high perfunctioning teams. And through lots of studies and lots of work, really, I mean, it boils down to a very simple concept, and that is trust. When trust exists on teams, you have a very functional, a very resilient team. When trust doesn't exist between team members and team leads or leaders, or vice versa, then the resilience of the team is going to suffer. Now, trust between humans especially humans that don't have intimate relationships, is certainly a challenge, right? And so it's rare that you're ever going to have perfect levels of trust across any given team, but there's certainly a lot you can do to build your culture around trust. And absolutely, without fail, as we've made a concerted effort over the last 15 years or so, once we started understanding these concepts a little bit better, to really again build the culture around that, I can tell you, our outcomes and our results have been significantly different, even exponentially different, and not just internally, but of course the outcomes we produce in revenue and in profit margins and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think one of really the number one keys to building functioning teams is to operationalize as much as you can trust across the board.
Oh, I like that. You had a lot of, again, really great points. Trust can never be undervalued. And I think we do undervalue it, but it shouldn't be, because we each need to show that trust. We need to earn the trust. I love everything you said, and building that resilience. It's a challenge, but it's more critical now in my view than it ever has been before. We've got to learn how to bounce back from challenges, and I love what you described about how to do that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 4. Is there someone that you'd like to recognize that has had an impact in your life?
Yeah, along the way, I've had a lot of really great friends and coaches and mentors and stuff. Really, I think the person who comes to mind most for me is Kent Whipple. Kent, is owner of Whipple Service Champions, Whipple Plumbing, and many years ago, Kent stepped, kind of away from his business into a chairman role, and hired a CEO. And he kind of went on a life mission to help other entrepreneurs really, figure out their own journey. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those first people that he took under his wing. And he had already built a really respectable, thriving business at that point, and had amassed a huge volume of knowledge and experience in leadership and entrepreneurship, and in building businesses. And frankly, my business was it was fledgling. It was doing okay. It was the revenue was all right. There was a little bit of profitability, but it wasn't exactly thriving, right? And I was very fortunate that, Kent, he and I met at an event. And, at a later date, he said, "Hey, look, I see you. I see what what you're striving to do. I want to help." And took me under his wing, no cost,
Wow.
and helped me for many, many months, really kind of understand what wasn't working right in my business and why it wasn't working right, and help me model, success for the future, and figure out, process and procedure and systems, and how to tweak and fine tune the culture. And so I think that, the last 10 or 12 years of my journey as an entrepreneur have been significantly different than the first 10 or 12 years. And a lot of that I straight up owe to Kent Whipple. He's a fantastic, wonderful human being and man that has a huge heart of gold, that has done a lot of good. And he's generally pretty silent about it. I don't think that a lot of people know about it.
Well, that's a fantastic story, and what a difference a good coach or mentor can make in helping us personally, professionally, whatever else it may be. So thank you for recognizing Kent. It sounds like a wonderful man and obviously had a great impact on you. All right. Well, Earl, our last question. Tell us a little bit about your first job.
Yeah, I started working at a very young age, actually. I had parents that taught me, from a young age, the value of a dollar, the value of the sweat on your brow, and an hour's work, right? And so at the young, tender age of 12 years old, they helped me get a job at the local Kent's IGA grocery store in my neighborhood. And I would go, this was summer job, right? And I would go in after the butchers would finish, their job. I think it started at noon every day, if I'm not mistaken. And I would go in and I would clean the butcher department, which was a bloody mess.
Oh,
It was
bad.
not a fun job at 12 years old to have to go in behind, the butchers and clean all of the machines and all of the countertops and walls and floor. And then I'd have to clean, the freezers as well. And, so I'd be in the freezers for an hour or two, which was freezing cold. And I'd go in every day, Monday through Saturday, and do that, for it usually was like a 4 or 5 hour job, to do it all. And it was definitely, I learned to work. I learned to work hard. I didn't love the job. I can't say I loved it because it was pretty gross. But I am super grateful, that I had parents that, and we didn't have much in terms of, means or capabilities. We were a very blue collar family in a blue collar neighborhood. And I'm grateful, though, that they taught me at a very young age, how to work, right? And what it meant to work, and that I could make money, and that, that money was my money to do what I decided to do with, right? And so, not the best job I've ever had, but I am very grateful that it was my first job.
Thank you for sharing that, because boy, I'll tell you, I don't know that I've talked to too many guests that absolutely loved their very first job. A lot of them were what we might call character building. So sounds
Yeah,
like that's what it was for you as well.
100%, 100%.
Fantastic. Earl, thank you so much for being on the show today and for sharing your insights, sharing your stories. Really, really appreciate it. How can people find you?
You can hit us up at nexusitc.net, or here in Utah at 801-839-7006.
Fantastic. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, go to teamengagementpodcast.com. And we also invite you to subscribe or follow the podcast, whether it be the audio version or whether it's the video version, either one. And we look forward to hearing you again next, or hearing from you again in our next episode. Thanks so much for joining us.